Look, let me tell you something straight, and I don't want you to pause this. I don't want you to skip, and I don't want you to lie to yourself for even 1 second, because if you're watching this right now, it's not by accident. It's because somewhere deep down you already know you've been playing this money game wrong. You've been reacting instead of anticipating, chasing instead of positioning, and pretending you're being careful when in reality you've just been scared, distracted, and comfortable enough to delay decisions that were supposed to change your future years ago. And today we're not talking about motivation. We're not talking about hope. We're talking about silver price predictions today, and what smart U.S. investors are actually watching while everyone else is busy arguing online, panicking about headlines, or praying their paycheck stretches just one more week. Because here's the first truth you need to swallow. Markets don't reward effort, they reward positioning, and silver right now is not a headline asset. It's a positioning asset. Meaning by the time everyone agrees it's a good buy, the real money has already been made. And if that sentence made you uncomfortable, good, because discomfort is the signal you've been ignoring for years. The same discomfort you felt when rent went from $1,200 to $1,900 and your salary barely moved. The same discomfort you felt when groceries crossed $300 for a week and you joked about it instead of adjusting your strategy. The same discomfort you felt when your 401k statement dropped and you told yourself it'll recover without understanding what recovery even means in a high inflation, high debt, late cycle economy. Because let's be honest, most Americans don't invest. They outsource thinking, they follow headlines, they follow apps, they follow vibes, and silver doesn't fit that lazy framework. Silver requires patience, understanding, and the ability to act before validation arrives, and that's why most people miss it. Every single cycle. Now picture this clearly, not abstractly, visualize it. You're waking up on a Monday morning, checking your bank account, doing mental math, rent due, credit card balance still there, student loan auto debit coming, gas tank half full, and somewhere in the back of your mind there's this quiet thought you never say out loud. I'm working hard, but I'm not getting ahead. And here's the brutal part. It's not because you're lazy, it's because the system you're operating in punishes savers and rewards asset holders. And silver sits right at the intersection of that punishment and that escape, but only for the people who understand timing. Because silver is not Bitcoin hype, it's not meme stock chaos, it's industrial demand, monetary demand, geopolitical insurance, and inflation math colliding at the same time. And smart U.S. investors aren't watching silver because it's shiny, they're watching it because copper shortages, green energy mandates, EV production, solar panel demand, and weakening purchasing power all point to one uncomfortable conclusion. Silver is structurally undervalued relative to the pressure being placed on it, and the average investor doesn't even know what structural means. They just know price goes up, price goes down, and that's why they panic buy tops and panic sell bottoms while disciplined money accumulates quietly when nobody's excited. And let me ask you something that will sting. When was the last time you bought something before it became popular? Not because someone told you to, but because you understood why it had to move eventually. Most people can't answer that because most people wait for permission, and silver doesn't give permission. It gives warnings, and right now those warnings are everywhere. U.S. debt expanding, real yields struggling, industrial usage climbing, mining supply not keeping pace, and retail investors still asleep because silver doesn't move fast enough to entertain them. And that impatience is exactly why they lose. Because wealth is not built in moments of excitement. It's built in periods of boredom where you choose discipline over dopamine. Now think about this. Really sit with it. If inflation averages even 4-5% for the next several years, which is conservative by current standards, what does that do to cash? What does that do to fixed income? What does that do to people who wait for clarity? Clarity never comes before opportunity, it comes after, and silver historically moves in phases. Long compression, sudden expansion, violent pullbacks that scare weak hands, followed by sustained runs that nobody believes until it's already happened. And smart investors are not asking, will silver go up tomorrow? They're asking, what happens if I'm wrong about everything except silver? Because that's how risk is actually managed, not by pretending risk doesn't exist, but by preparing for outcomes nobody wants to talk about. like currency debasement, geopolitical shocks, supply chain stress, and policy decisions that sacrifice long-term stability for short-term political comfort. And while you're scrolling, while you're consuming content, while you're watching price tickers without context, there are investors quietly building positions, not all in, not emotional, but intentional, because they understand something you haven't been taught. You don't need to be right about everything, you just need to not be wrong about the things that matter most, and silver sits in that category. And here's where it gets uncomfortable again, because some of you watching this already know silver deserves attention. You've known for months, maybe years, but you didn't act. You hesitated. You waited for a better entry. You waited for confirmation. You waited for someone louder, more famous, more confident to say it first, and now price moves and suddenly you feel that tightness in your chest, that mix of regret and fear, and instead of learning from it, you tell yourself, I'll catch the next move. But markets don't reward next-time thinkers. They reward prepared ones, and this is the part nobody tells you. Missing an opportunity doesn't just cost money, it costs confidence. It trains your brain to hesitate again next time, and that hesitation compounds just like interest. Except it compounds regret, and smart US investors know this. They know psychology matters more than predictions, which is why they don't chase silver headlines. They watch silver behavior, volume, macro alignment, relative strength, and sentiment apathy, because apathy is where accumulation happens. Excitement is where distribution happens, and right now silver sits in that uncomfortable middle where it's moving enough to matter but not enough to attract the crowd. And that window never stays open long. It never has. History proves it again and again, and if you're still telling yourself, I'll start paying attention later, ask yourself later compared to what? Compared to when your expenses rise again, compared to when your savings lose more value, compared to when price gaps up and suddenly your risk tolerance disappears, because the most expensive price in markets is the price of certainty. And by the time silver feels safe, it will be far more expensive, both financially and emotionally. And here's the real punchline, the one that separates watchers from movers. The goal is not to predict silver perfectly. The goal is to not be financially naked in a world where paper promises keep getting weaker, and the people who understand that are not loud, they're not emotional, they're not posting screenshots, they're positioning quietly because they know what comes next is never announced in advance. And right now, you're standing at a line you don't even realize exists. A line between being reactive and being intentional, between being informed and being prepared, between watching smart investors move and becoming one of them. And in part 2, I'm going to break down exactly what those smart US investors are watching right now. The levels, the signals, the behaviors that tell you when patience turns into action and when hesitation becomes expensive, because once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it, and the only question left will be whether you act or repeat the same cycle you've been stuck in for years. Look, if you're still here, it means you're ready to take action. You're not the type to just sit back and hope the market does you a favor. You're here because you're ready to confront the hard truths and make the moves that matter, the moves that most people will never have the guts to make. So let's dive right into it. I'm not here to hold your hand or waste your time. I'm here to show you exactly what the smart investors are watching when it comes to silver and why they're getting ahead while everyone else is scrambling to catch up. You want to know why silver is set to make a massive move? I'll break it down for you step by step and show you exactly what you're missing. First, the market is speaking loud and clear, but most people are too busy with their head in the sand to listen. Let's start with one simple, undeniable fact. Silver's value is tethered to more than just inflation. It's tied to the very industries that are shaping the future. Think about it. Green energy, electric vehicles, solar power, all of these industries require silver. They need it. They can't function without it. And here's the kicker. Demand for silver is climbing, but mining, it's struggling to keep up. That's a recipe for a supply crunch, and you don't want to be the one left behind when the supply runs dry. Now you're probably thinking, okay, I get it, but what does that mean for me? Where do I fit into this equation? Well, here's the truth that's hard to swallow. If you're not already positioned, you're already behind. The window of opportunity is small and it's closing faster than you think. But it's not too late, not yet. So let's talk numbers. We've seen silver's price fluctuate over the years, but in recent months there's been a clear trend, a steady upward momentum that's just waiting to explode. Look at the charts. Look at the volume. This is not your typical random price movement. This is market behavior that's showing signs of something bigger brewing underneath the surface. The silver market is setting up for a big breakout, and if you think it's going to happen in a straight line, you're wrong. There will be pullbacks. There will be doubt. But those who act when others hesitate will be the ones who reap the rewards. Let's talk about inflation for a second. It's the silent killer. You feel it every time you go to the store, every time you pay your rent, every time you look at your bank account and realize your paycheck isn't stretching as far as it used to. Inflation is here to stay. The dollar is losing purchasing power by the day, and if you're holding on to cash, you're losing money without even realizing it. You've heard it 100 times. Cash is trash in an inflationary environment. So what are you doing to protect your wealth? Are you watching silver, or are you sitting back hoping things will turn around on their own? The smart investors are protecting themselves from the inflationary storm by buying silver. They're buying the dips, they're watching the data, they're monitoring the global economic situation, and they're positioning themselves for the coming rise in silver. You think silver is just another commodity? No, it's a hedge against the collapse of the dollar, and if you don't understand that, you're already behind. Here's the cold, hard truth. The opportunity is right in front of you, but it's not going to wait for you to make up your mind. If you don't act now, you'll regret it. That's not a warning, that's a fact. Because once silver breaks through certain price levels, it won't just be a bull run, it'll be a stampede. You won't be able to get in, and by the time you think you can, the price will be far beyond where it is now. That's how markets work. But here's what sets the smart investors apart from the rest. They don't follow the crowd. They don't wait for the news to break. They don't wait for the headlines to tell them it's time to act. They anticipate the moves before they happen. And right now, the smart money is quietly accumulating silver, getting ready for a breakout that most people won't see coming. I know what you're thinking, but how do I know when to act? How do I know it's the right time to buy? Here's the answer. It's about watching the signals, the patterns, the behaviors of the market. You need to be paying attention to the charts, the volume, the shifts in sentiment. You need to be watching the mining sector, understanding the supply chain, and looking at the macroeconomic factors that are shaping the market. It's about being prepared for when the breakout happens, not scrambling to catch up when it's already too late. So what should you be looking for? First, watch the $30 price level. That's the point where silver will start to attract massive institutional money. $35 is a critical level that could trigger a flood of buying. And above $40, that's when silver goes mainstream. But don't wait for the mainstream to catch on. By the time the media starts talking about it, you're already too late. But here's the catch. This isn't about just buying silver for the sake of it. This is about protecting yourself, your wealth, your future. This is about taking control in a world that's becoming less predictable by the day. If you're still sitting on the sidelines hoping things will get better on their own, you're making a mistake. This is the time to act. You need to ask yourself one question. Are you going to wait for everyone else to catch up, or are you going to be the one who saw the opportunity first? Because when silver takes off, and trust me, it will, the people who move first will be the ones who make the most money. The ones who hesitated, they'll be left watching from the sidelines wishing they'd acted sooner. The question is, which one are you going to be?